Hello, everybody, and welcome to Being Visionary Radio. It's an absolute pleasure to be here today. And my guest for today's episode is the lovely Carlyn Shaw. She is the creator and mastermind behind the highly successful meetup group Strangers to Friends. This gal is a petite but powerful mover and shaker. I had the honor of listening to her speak at an Ignite event last month, and I can tell you that it was not only inspiring, but it was entertaining. So be prepared. We're going to be learning a little bit about how she came up with the idea for her Strangers to Friend meetup and what compelled her to get up and speak in front of a huge audience about bubbles, of all things, and where she's headed in her new adventures with her new website. So I would like to welcome you. Welcome, Carlyn.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's very exciting. We were chatting before before we started recording, and I just love your enthusiasm for life. And I love that you just go and do what you want to do.
Yeah, I really do, actually. I don't ask for permission. That's for sure.
That's great. I mean, there's so many people that feel the need to have to ask for permission for everything in their life, permission to, whatever it is, to start a new job, to, have happiness, to whatever. People think they have to ask permission of others.
Yes. I always joke that there's two ways you can say, what if? You can go, oh my gosh, what if? Or you can go, oh my gosh, what if? And however you spin that, that's the direction you're going to go in. So there's always a what if in any decision you make, but we have the power to make it playful.
Absolutely. And, life is for living. We should be enjoying it and living it and being playful and having fun.
I have love life actually tattooed on the back of my neck, which is a whole story in itself.
We'll have to talk about that one time.
So it's my bumper sticker. I'm a big proponent.
Great. That's wonderful. Okay. So Carlyn, tell us a little bit about you, where you've lived and where you live now.
Well, let's see. I am 39 years old and I currently call Denver, Colorado home. And I've been here for a little over 5 years, which is kind of crazy now. And this is state number 6.
Wow.
So I've been a gypsy of sorts, and going along with that, what you just said before, how I don't ask for permission. I've followed my heart on every move. I was born in Boston, very proud, and was raised in Greenville, South Carolina. I like to joke that I'm the only blonde-haired, blue-eyed Jewish gal that was raised in the South. And then I went to Indiana University, and after I graduated from college, moved to Dallas, Texas for an opportunity, stayed there for 3 years, and then followed my heart to San Diego, California, where I called home for another 8 years. And after San Diego, followed my heart again to Wilmington, North Carolina, which is actually the same latitude as San Diego. So one beach to another. I was there for a year and a half before, listening again to my intuition and coming to the mountains.
So now you're away from the ocean, though.
I am.
How's that?
Well, as someone else that loves water, we have to make it a priority. So I'm very lucky that my brother still lives in San Diego. My mom lives in Southern Florida, and we have the power to hop on an airplane and get our wiggles out with some waves whenever we need it.
There you go. You've got the hookups for sure.
Yeah.
That's great. So earlier talking with you, we had talked a little bit about a trip that you had just taken recently.
Yes, to Alaska.
Yes. Could you tell our listeners about that trip and what was behind that trip and how you got there and what you did, and let us know.
Well, I was very honored to be the guest speaker for the 17th annual Prince of Wales Alaskan Marathon. So Prince of Wales Island is the most southern region of Alaska. It's a small island, about a 3-hour ferry off of Ketchikan. So if you look at Alaska like this, it's way down here. And the whole island has a population of about 4,000 people. So my story of being a runner that has used running as my medicine to ultimately be one of the ways I healed myself from multiple sclerosis is the story that's now carrying me to speak to other runners in situations like being at the marathon. So my story with running is I ran both the Boston and the New York Marathon in 2015, both for multiple sclerosis. I'm not fast enough to get into Boston, so I had to go by using my cause as my stepping stone.
Gotcha.
I was diagnosed with MS when I was 19, so 20 years ago. And over the years have had my own journey with medications, with feeling alone in what I was experiencing because I was so young to be diagnosed before there was Google. So there were no rabbit holes to go down to find answers. You had to look in here. And it was the year 2010, at the age of 32, that I, around the exact same time, made a very responsible decision on my end to stop taking my MS medication, and also signed up for my first half marathon training group. So I've now run 18 half marathons and 3 marathons. And I love telling the story and sharing with others this ability we have to take more control of ourselves, with this idea that no matter what you're dealing with in life, we cannot control what happens to us, but we control how we respond to it. And how it all came to be. I know we're going to talk about strangers to friends. So my Alaska opportunity actually manifested itself through a gal I met very serendipitously in Denver at a really small women's, like cozy, like dinner event where we were just all sharing parts of our story. And it just so happened that there was a gal there who was currently living in Prince of Wales, Alaska, that used to live in Denver. And she heard a bit of my story and asked if it'd be okay if she passed my information to the race director, because they were always looking for inspirational speakers. And I thought, are you kidding me? As a runner, that would be a dream come true to run in Alaska. So literally it was this amazing journey of, I never imagined in 2015 that following my heart to run Boston and raising the money that I did and speaking the way I did in Boston would be the stepping stone to get me to another dream by running and speaking in Alaska.
Wow. That just goes to show you that, there's so many people who are afraid to share their story. They're afraid to be authentic. They want to put on this face, this brave face or whatever. And they just don't want to share the real them, their real soul. And it's like, once people understand and get to that portion in their mindset that they can share who they truly are without fear, things just kind of drop into our laps.
And it's fascinating you say that, because I was diagnosed, like I said, at 19. I was a sophomore in college. I'd never heard of MS, and I didn't even know it was something that I should be ashamed of. I didn't even know what it was. And we're talking about a time that there was zero social media. There was zero comparison. And the same year I was diagnosed with MS, both of my best friends were killed in separate car accidents. So this idea of, can I be vulnerable, was never a question. I was vulnerable from the day I've never been an adult without sharing my story, because my story was so visible and tactile. And it was something that,
right.
I would go to my professors in college and say, by the way, I was diagnosed with this, in case there's the chance I missed some school. It wasn't this, oh, who am I to tell somebody? It was just being responsible with it. And,
right.
and it's so fascinating now that as adults, it's a blessing that we can reason, and it's a curse that we can reason. Children don't reason. They just do, and they own, and they say blunt things, and you go, why did you just say that? But that's because they didn't have this fear of not saying it.
Right.
And as adults, the older we get, a lot of times we're more concerned about what others will think than how it will serve us. But I'm a big believer that tragedy creates purpose. And if you cannot own your story without shame, like, your story shows up for a purpose. It just is how you choose to use your purpose.
Right. And I truly believe that your story, my story, that there's somebody out there that it was waiting for that message about, you and myself and other people that we know who have persevered and gone through whatever it is that we've gone through. And then now we share that story to others, being authentic, and it helps other people to
Absolutely.
be able to pull that authenticity from themselves and face things forward without having to be ashamed or worried or fearful.
Right. I mean, we only have one shot at a life in this body, to my
Right,
knowledge, right?
right.
And who are you or I to deny myself the opportunity to live in what God, universe, whatever you call it, gave you to live? We're only we have control of this life in so many ways. So I encourage people to realize life doesn't happen to them, but it happens for them.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, well, great. I feel like we're just getting to know you, and our listeners are just going to be like, wow, I know her. I mean, she's just so authentic. I love that. So, Carlyn, tell us about strangers to friends and what your aha moment was in coming up with the idea and creating it and actually getting started. So, share that with us.
So Strangers to Friends started in 2010, right around this time that I began running actually. Um, Before I had a website, I created what I call connection cards for myself. So I found myself in between jobs without a business card. And I found myself inadequate when I was going out there to meet with people because this was before I was really using social media. So how was I leaving myself with people? So the PR person in me ran to Kinko's and was like, well, who am I? What do I do? Of course, I've been a recruiter. I've been to this, I've been to that, but Carlyn Shaw, turned strangers into friends. And the strangers to friends was from a lot of things built up in me. I've always been a connector and I've always intuitively been drawn to people, but I always thought it was weird. I didn't really know how to articulate it. But as soon as and here's like, these are my cards now, and it says the journey of a friendship begins with two strangers, because my knowing is when we initially meet, like you and I, when we first met, we never knew we'd be together now on a podcast. So we
Right.
never know the second we meet somebody why we're meeting them. We just have to honor that there's a reason that they crossed our path, or we crossed their path. But this idea of a journey and taking the time to get to know you and your story, and you getting the time to know me and my story, then it's going to present itself why we're here, right?
Exactly.
So I bought my domain initially to literally just share the stories of these very crazy, serendipitous people I was meeting, because it felt weird that I would say to myself, I need this type of person in my life. And the next day I'd be in the grocery store line talking about an avocado. And before I know it, this is the person that showed up to be this, and in these unintentional ways. So it's this knowing that if we are seeking people for what they have to offer us versus just seeking people as people, then we're already putting them into these categories, right? And also with my MS and with my friends passing, I felt so alone in my journey for so long, but I knew there was no way I couldn't be alone. Like there had to be somebody else out there like me. But it took me many, many years to find a group of gals my age, all living normal with MS in San Diego. And we formed a dinner group when we'd get together once a month. And I realized that these friends were these unlikely women that I never would have imagined as friends in my life, but oh my God, I couldn't imagine my life without. They were my sisters, and they still are actually many, many years later. And when we would get together for dinner at a brewery once a month, it wasn't like we sat around and talked about our MS, but we had this common denominator that if we needed to talk about something or share something, we were in this safe space to be heard and seen and not judged. And so it was this idea of support versus sympathy. Because when you go through the things that I went through at a young age, the first thing everyone says is, oh my goodness, I am just so sorry. I'm so sorry you were diagnosed. I'm so sorry. And I immediately, trying not to be too much of a, smart ass sometimes even, I'm like, why are you sorry? You had nothing to do with it. And I say, and don't be sorry, because this actually opened up this for me. And I have these people now. And I've learned this about myself. And there's all these catalysts that come from something, right?
Right.
So it's the support versus the sympathy. And it's also the understanding versus the empathizing. So there's this, when we can, even if it's just, I moved to a new city, when you meet somebody else that just moved to a new city, it's kind of comforting because you're going through the same thing at the same time. And in the world we live in now, as I like to say, we are more connected than ever. Like here you and I are through a screen, but I can't touch you, right? So
Right.
there's this whole lack of tactileness and
Yeah.
connection. So in a world more connected and more disconnected, I wanted to launch something that would bring people together to connect in a way that as humans, we really need on so many levels for healing and understanding and just having fun and playing as adults that we don't get as often, because there is that self-judgment. There is the, what will this person think? Or what do I have to offer? Do I like the self-worth around connecting and meeting people?
Right, right. And that's so true that our world today is so social media centric that it has become more of the norm to connect with people via technology versus connecting in person and having that one-on-one and shaking somebody's hand and
Or
being able to
hugging.
hug somebody
I
and
think
say,
handshaking's a little awkward person. I'm
yeah.
like, when you shake someone's hand, you're forced to look at them right in the eye and like you're holding hands. I'm like, that to me is a little stranger than embracing somebody, and you don't even have to look at them, but you can feel their energy, you know?
Right, right.
So I start, to how this meetup came to be was, the journey with Strangers to Friends from 2009 to when I started my meetup. To sum it up, I started writing the blog. Then I manifested my job ending in San Diego, and I decided to do what I called my Strangers to Friends road trip. And I created a 15 city, 6-week road trip from San Diego to Wilmington. Sight unseen. I'd never been to Wilmington. I didn't know anybody there. I just felt called there. It was on the water near family. And I brought 500 Strangers to Friends cards with me. And I did this personal science experiment of, can I start over in a new city, trusting that these people I'm meeting are actually the people that are going to help me create my community and why I'm here. And I did it, and it was amazing. And I then got another whisper inside of me, and I was called to Colorado. But when I came out here, I ended up, life threw me a lot of bumps in the road, from relationship to physical setbacks, a job that I was unhappy in. And I lost myself for a bit. And in losing myself, I actually stopped making, I didn't have any printed Strangers to Friends cards. I wasn't out there connecting. And an accident in 2013, a freak bike accident where these are fake, these are implants. I was thrown over my handlebars, lost my teeth, and eventually
Wow.
I didn't have teeth for 8 months of being 36. So this face would smile at you across the restaurant like, hey. And I had fun with it because I realized I didn't ask for this, and I was not going to let this accident steal my smile, but it inspired me to write again. And so I wrote a blog post about losing my teeth, and I quoted Brene Brown in it. And, she's one of my all-time favorites, and
She's amazing.
she's amazing. And, before vulnerability was the new black, I've always been living vulnerable, but she kind of just made me seem a little more normal with how vulnerable I had always been. So I quoted her in my blog, and she retweeted it. And her retweeting my blog ended up bringing in a lot of readers to reach out to me on this teeth issue. Like, I had no idea so many people struggled about teeth.
Yeah.
And it reminded me the power of sharing stories. And then people in Denver started catching wind of, what is this blog you have? And what is it that you're doing? And wow, you meet so many people, and you're helping people, and you're bringing people out of their shells. Like, I want to be brought out of my shell, or I want to meet people. And so I was challenged they wanted Strangers to Friends. And I was like, well, I don't know what that is exactly. It's just me and how I bounce around this world. But I decided, I reached out to some friends of mine that own a local brewery called Strange Craft Brewery, and the guy named Tim, that's the head brewer. And I said, what are your thoughts about me hosting a happy hour here, where I call it the Strangers to Friends Happy Hour, and see if I can get people to come together, and I'll facilitate it. So I'll implement name tags, and then I came up with this idea of leading with an open-ended question and having everyone write the answer to their question on their name tag. not only as a conversation starter for each other, but for me as this intuitive facilitator to be able to go around and ask the right questions and learn enough about each person that I could start almost like matchmaking and bringing them together.
What a great idea. I
Yeah. So
love that. You just get these little whispers, as you call them, and then you just pull them out and act on
yeah,
it.
but
I love that.
I'll tell you the biggest panic attack, one of the biggest panic attacks I've ever, and I've had panic attacks to me are not a bad thing. They're actually part of our body as a compass. Like a panic attack or anxiety means we need to do something, right? Or we're not doing something we should be doing. Like we need to listen to these signs from our body. And when I hit publish on that meetup, which meant I was giving people the ability to, whether they were going to like me or not like me in this idea and judge me or not judge me in this idea, you would be surprised. I was up till like 4 a.m. having a freaking heart attack about a meetup, right?
Oh, I'm sure. I've been there, done that. Yeah.
And then the first person joined and I was like, oh, I didn't die. And people actually like what I have to offer. So now it's evolved almost, over a year later, where I'm not only partnering with a different brewery every month. And the reason I selected breweries isn't because connection has to be around alcohol, but breweries are small, or they're all a local business.
Mm-hmm.
They also all offer community style seating. So space is a hot commodity when you're bringing people together. Typically breweries offer parking lots, and I do not like having parking as an issue. I don't like the stress of not finding parking. It's little things,
Right. And Denver can be crazy with parking.
Denver can be really crazy. And breweries offer different, atmospheres. They're all different personalities. So I thought, why not give people the chance to learn about different parts of Denver as well? And so it's evolved into what I call the Strangers to Friends experience. And, 20 to 30 people on average are coming to my monthly events. And there would be more, I think, if I could offer them. And I'm rotating all around Colorado right now where I'm bringing my event. And it's fascinating to me, the level of bravery in some of these people, because the way I market it is, we live in this world more connected, but more disconnected. Let's put down our cell phones and get back to basics.
Right.
And really, I promote this safe, non-judging space. So no judgment allowed zones, because I know that you looking at me, you would never know my story. And I honor that in every single person I meet, because there's no way I'm going to know their story, but we all have one,
Exactly. There are so many stories behind every face. There is, a multitude of stories, and, the society being so judgmental, which I've experienced quite a bit of, the judgmental portion of it. It's so difficult to get these people to understand that, hey, you know what? We are all people. Every single one of us has an experience within us. We have many, many experiences. And, don't judge just what you're looking at.
Right.
Listen to me.
And a lot of it is it's a protection.
Right.
What, I've learned a lot about connection through others, because for me, it comes a lot more naturally. And I recognize that I'm here to be a teacher with it. And a lot of people have a innate fear of rejection. So something happened to them in life that made them feel unworthy or unvaluable in receiving. And I explain that what I'm doing by bringing people together, yes, I am offering connection zones, right? But what people don't realize is my motive is really to inspire confidence in people.
Yes.
So what I try to do in each of these is really, like I said, every single person that comes, I hug them when they get there, which to some people is not normal. And I later say in the evening, I take about 20 minutes throughout each event to kind of talk about where Strangers to Friends came from, because everyone's like, why do you do this for us? And it's this knowing that
forms a bond.
It's the bond, but it's people equal possibilities. Like we can manifest anything we want in life, but not if we sit in our room by ourselves and go, dear God, please have this fall out of the sky into my lap. We have to go out there and play our part. And can't wait for
So
it to
true.
come to
So
us, right? And
it's
people,
action and
right, action equals action, and it's usually
exactly.
through people. Someone offers an idea, someone offers a suggestion, someone offers a connection, someone offers support, whatever the role someone's going to take. It's going out there and meeting those people that's going to help kind of like move you along on your path. But also, if nothing else, if someone comes to my event and they don't leave with a best friend, that's okay. There's no failure in that, because I'm not trying to create best friends. I'm trying to create human experiences. And if for 2 hours you come, and if nothing else, just have open conversation about life and learning and laughing and sharing, then my mission is accomplished. Because, you know, there's a big difference between networking and connecting.
Right, right.
And I like to say that my events are lead with you, not what do you do? Because what we do is not always who we are. And when you lead with what you do, there's this idea in networking, I feel like, what does this person have to offer me? Or what do I have to offer this person? Well, what if all you had to offer was the fact that you were human and you showed up, and there wasn't this necessary need of this value? But what if you can wrap your head around the fact that when you do business with people, and you do eventually learn what this person does, you choose to do business with people that are friendly and people you enjoy. So when you do need somebody to do what you found out this person does, now you'll think about them and hopefully call them for some work.
Right.
So it's this idea of being
People
open
first.
to being approachable, as
Yeah.
opposed to, like, we can put a lot of pressure on ourselves of what do I say first? How do I lead? You know, but if instead you're just, if you do nothing more than start with by putting down your phone. Like, if I'm sitting like this, I'm not open to meeting you. I'm shutting you off. So I say no phones are allowed at my events, but I'm not like a police about it, but I will casually come up to someone and go, "Oh, are you checking in or texting someone to join us?" Because if not, you're not present.
I
Put
love
your
that.
phone down.
That's great. So what would you say was your aha moment that either in the creation or in the evolving of Strangers to Friends, that moment that just really, you know, made you feel like, you know what, this is it?
Because I've been traveling the world with these cards for as long as I have a ton of amazing one-on-one connections. And I live with this philosophy of who am I not to share these amazing people I meet with the world. So when I first created this event, I was actually targeting my friends to try and come to these events so that I could get them to meet each other, because I have a lot of one-on-ones, but most of them don't know each other. So initially my vision was, I simply wanted to create a platform of bringing all the good people I knew together to make more goodness in the world by connecting and potentially collaborating. But what I realized was I couldn't lead with this expectation of who I wanted to show up and for why I wanted to show up. I actually had to really let go of it and not be offended that my friends weren't the ones coming, because ultimately I only wanted people to come if they truly were open to meeting others. And as somebody that has started over 3 times as an adult in a new city and living in a city now that's booming like crazy, I know there's a lot of people that are in Denver right now, whether they're readjusting to their city and looking for a new social scene within what they've always known as familiar, or they've moved here and they are seeking, how do I build community? Or we just need to, take that first step and shift ourselves. Action equals action,
Mm-hmm.
So we sometimes just taking that first step and doing something on your own, which I'm a big proponent of doing things by myself, because when I do them by myself, I'm more open to meeting people. And it's not that I don't love doing things with friends, don't get me wrong, but different intention, right? So
Gotcha.
I encourage people to come to these events by themselves to be more open. And that was really a big inspiration, was, what are you not doing because you don't have someone to do it with? Well, what if I promised you didn't have to have someone to do it with? You just needed to show up, and I would make sure you would meet the people around you. because I don't only just have these events at breweries. I also partner with small local businesses. I'm a big fan of just sharing what people are creating out there. So a friend of mine, for example, just opened a new cheese shop in Littleton. So we created a Let's Get Cheesy cheese class, you know, so it's like cheesy conversations and let's learn about cheese, but something so simple, right? But everybody came on their own. And I think oftentimes when you attend classes, there's this missed opportunity because we're all there for something that drew us there. But usually, no offense to other teachers out there, but usually as adults versus as children, there isn't the same facilitation for you to actually meet the people around you. And I want to change the way we are engaging as a community within a community, whether it's in the office place, whether it's in a class, whatever it is. When we have a group of people together, we can honor each other.
Okay, so you basically came to the what do I want to say? The assumption that it would be very beneficial to people to step outside their comfort zone, and that by doing so, they would then be able to open themselves up to confidence and growth. Is that?
Yes, I'll give you 2 examples.
Okay.
For example, I have one guy who's now been to a couple of my events, and halfway through the event, I do a raffle, but part of the raffle is if you win, I get up in front of everybody and I stand on a chair. It's very informal, you know, but if you win, you have to actually get up next to me and present yourself to the crowd and introduce yourself, say why you came and what's on your name tag. And so for some people, public speaking is like death, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was a first step for them to even come to the event. Now they're like, I want to win. And then when they learn what comes with winning, they're like, I don't want to win, you know? But I've watched people, oh my goodness, transform. And I have people, so the guy I was referring to, he served 2 terms in Iraq. His marriage is sabotaged. I had no idea the level of suffering that was going on inside of him. He actually let me know that he had to text message friends for personal support just to attend my meetup.
Wow.
Because he felt so rusty in just being himself, and who was that, and putting himself out there. So here's somebody on, you know, in real therapy for real reasons. And he doesn't even win. He volunteers to stand up in front of the crowd with me. And he, you know, thanks me for what I've created, because it's the first time in years that he found himself genuinely smiling, just being with other people. And this brought tears to my eyes because he validated, if it's just one person, I feel like it's my mission, because it all goes back to my own story of how much I struggled for years,
right,
feeling strange with what I was going through, and not really, people would walk on eggshells around me. And it was not a fun way to live because no one wanted to upset me. And, you know, he's a beautiful example. I had a woman 2 months ago come, her and her former husband had recently moved to Denver. They'd been married for many years. She has a young daughter, and she was from Texas. So she doesn't have the same interest that necessarily all of us were. She's not a mountain biker. She's not a hiker yet. Like, sure, she might become this, but she's fresh off the boat from Texas, you know?
Gotcha.
And her husband left her within a few months of being here with a young daughter.
Sad.
And she has no friends. And she didn't know what to do. And, you know, she even messaged me privately before coming to the event, what should I wear? And I just said to her as a female, like, oh my gosh, girl, just be you, be comfortable. Like, I'm wearing jeans and a cute top. Like, this isn't about impressing, just be you.
Just show up.
Just show up. And she ended up closing down the evening. You know, I have this amazing picture of the 2 of us, a huge smile on her face. And she doesn't need to be a regular. She can come again if she wants. But I really believe shifting and changing. Yes, I'm a big fan of these like month-long programs to go through in life, but I also believe in quick shifts. And I think,
sure. Yeah, immediate.
And where I am an expert, like the work that I do with people, it's really getting quick. It's getting them to tell me their story right away. And I lead with my story. So I make them very comfortable with their story. And when they can say, here's why I'm here, and that's off the table and done, and now they can just be, I can watch a weight lifted off of them.
Wow. That's amazing and very inspiring to hear some of those stories. Let's talk real quickly about your speech, Bubbles. I'd love to have you share about that, how that came about.
I wonder if I have bubbles in a bag right by me. Let me see if I do. I have to check. Oh, I don't think I do. But I gave a talk the other day called Bubbles Make Everything Better. There's a few reasons at Ignite Denver, which is an amazing platform that's kind of like a mini TED Talk. So, and it allows someone to have a story, a message. You get 5 minutes on stage. You have to make 20 slides, and the slides fast forward, kind of progress on their own every 15 seconds. The main reason I signed up for this talk is it scared the bejeebies out of me to be told only 5 minutes when normally I'm told I have 5 minutes left because I'm a talker.
Right.
And the idea of structure around my talk with slides. And I personally wanted to get over the fear of a structured talk. So
it pushed you out of your comfort zone significantly.
I did not sign up. I believe in my message. The story itself was a bucket list talk, this talk about bubbles, which I'll get into in a little bit. But I want anyone listening to know, I did not apply for this talk because I thought my message needs to be heard by everyone and I want a stage. I applied for this talk literally because it scared the beep beep out of me, and I either was going to continue being scared or I needed to do it because now that I've done it, now I'm inspired to apply for a TED Talk, and I have to do things to keep moving myself forward. So that's the real reason behind it. But the underlying reason behind it is when I took a class with a book called The Artist Way in 2009, which was right around the time that Strangers to Friends came to me as well. I was given this assignment to take a bottle of bubbles and blow them in a public place around people, and then write down the response of the people and the response of myself. And it ended up being this profound experience for me where I felt myself a little nervous. I was excited. I was 30, what was I, 31, 32? I don't know. And I picked a coffee shop I'd never been to in San Diego. But there's this moment right before you actually blow bubbles in a public place where everyone's in their laptops and doing their own thing that you think, what the heck am I about to do? Like, am I really just about to blow bubbles in the middle of a restaurant type thing? Like it just isn't normal. So there's this resistance you actually have to get over to blow something that is just soap and water. So my whole talk was, not only did I end up having an entire coffee shop of men, there was no other women there, fully engaged in conversation as a result of the bubbles. And I have the talk is on YouTube, so maybe I can send you the link rather than telling the whole talk again, and you can share it somehow because it's fun to watch. But really it was this aha of when I got back to my class the next week and we were all sharing our stories of our bubble blowing experiences, to learn that there were people that didn't have time to blow bubbles that week. And that's when I learned, like, how do you not have time to blow bubbles? It's like, it doesn't even make sense to me.
Right.
And that's when I learned it was a fear exercise.
Yeah.
And it was about this fear of drawing attention to yourself. But had I, allowed that little bit of resistance to keep me from blowing bubbles in this coffee shop, I would have missed out on the entire experience of.
And then you would have missed out on the speaking about
everything.
Well.
So I just thought bubbles make everything better. You cannot frown while blowing them. They're bottles of joy and love. And as adults, going back to that fear of rejection and this fear of being seen and this fear of being heard, kids don't reason with whether they should blow bubbles and whether it's appropriate or not.
They just do it.
Blow bubbles.
And they make everything happy.
And they make everything happy. No one goes, shame on you. You should not blow bubbles, So I wanted to offer a talk to inspire people to kind of think of bubbles in this new way, and maybe there's a way they can implement them in their own lives or gift them to others and just play with life instead of worrying about life.
I think you did an amazing job, and I will put the link in the show notes. So if you would like to be able to see her speech, we will have that in the show notes at the bottom of the podcast. So that will be there as well. And let's see, we're going
And
to
I
need
will
to
say,
wrap
like, I
up.
think the best part of that talk was afterwards, the number of people that came up to me going, oh my gosh, I have a really sick friend right now. And you just gave me an idea to go bring bubbles to my friend. Or, you know, one gal is a consultant and for tech companies out in San Francisco. And she decided, she was like, I'm going to use these as part of my presentation. And I was like, wonderful. Like,
You inspired people right there.
right,
And
right there. And I want
wait
to
and
collect
see how
these
much
bubble
more it's going
stories.
to be.
I
Yeah.
want to challenge people now to, like, I wish that I didn't promote myself and I didn't promote Strangers to Friends. This really was a talk just of me, like I said, moving through a phase, jumping through something. So I didn't make it about showy presentation, but I wish I'd said, share with me your bubble stories. Here's my email address, because I want to see how the bubbles carry. But
Well, you can do that on the Ignite website and
yeah,
on YouTube, I'm sure.
we'll
So
see.
there's ways to do that. We'll chat about that afterwards. So we are going to need to start to wrap it up here. We are getting low on our time. I quickly want to ask you about, this is one of my favorite parts, is I always ask everybody what their favorite business books or inspirational books are that they've been reading lately. So tell me, what's your favorite one that you've been reading lately?
Oh, the book I just finished recently, and I always do audiobooks because I like to hear the story being told to me. And I feel like I retain the story a little better when I hear it. So I just finished Mark Manson's book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, which I highly recommend.
It's a great book.
It's a great book. And it was this beautiful reminder to myself that I didn't necessarily learn anything new from him, as much as I was reminded, like, it's a very similar story to how I live. And so to hear someone else's book writing about some of the same passions that I have and beliefs and values that I have, how I carry myself and make decisions. And there's a book inside of me that I've started to form, and I'm forming the chapters right now. And it might have the F word in there every so often as well. So I thought, wow, what great, like, I guess, sign, so to say, that that we all find our tribes.
Right.
And even if we have a message that's similar, if I were to write my book, it's going to have a different tribe and it'll speak to people. But it's just this beautiful reminder of this, it's being unattached, really. And that's how I live, is unattached to outcomes, unattached to people. And when I say unattached to people, it's unattached to like who they need to be in our life, but rather allowing them to be who they're supposed to be in our lives. So people come and go as teachers. And this unattachment to a plan of the way things need to go, but rather this plan of the way they're supposed to go. So that's going to be a lot of what my book is going to be about, is the same theme of unattachment.
Oh, that'll be very exciting. I'll definitely want to get the scoop on that.
Yeah.
Well, it has been an absolute pleasure having you here. I truly enjoy talking to you and listening to you. I usually interact more. I was just so enthralled with listening to your story that I kind of kept quiet. But
well, thank you for giving me this opportunity to share with your listeners and share a little bit more of myself with you.
I love it. I love it. I knew a little bit and I've learned a lot more, and I can't wait to learn even more. And I definitely am going to have you back in the future. That would be absolutely fabulous. Right now, let's give our listeners the ability to reach out to you. What's the best way they can reach out to you? Website, Facebook?
So I have my Strangers to Friends website, which is literally strangers to, like, there we go.
Spelled out.
Yeah, strangerstofriends.com. I use the handle Strangers to Friends on Instagram as well.
Okay.
And on Facebook, I have a page for Strangers to Friends. And you can find me, Carlyn, which is CarlynShaw, on Facebook as well. And I will be launching in the next few months my personal website, carlynshaw.com, which will be more focused on my own personal stories and ways to work with me, and ways to have me join you for speaking events, because it's really the direction I want to go in as well. Whereas strangers to friends, I'm really cultivating more as a community where it's not about me, but I am kind of the facilitator of it.
Right.
But I really want to encourage other people to be a part of the site. So there's a little work going on behind the scenes right now to get this all in motion.
That is so wonderful. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure, and I hope that our listeners have enjoyed this. And I would like to make sure to remind each of you to subscribe to our podcast and to please leave us a review and 5 stars on iTunes. We would greatly appreciate it. Thanks again, Carlyn.
Yes, and I can't wait to share you with all of my friends.
That will be fun.